theory, Bathsheba was also rumored to have been a witch by the people in the town. And this rumor was only solidified when it was found out that she actually had a baby that died underneath her own care. And that baby died by having a sewing needle lodged into its brain.
Oh my goodness.
I'm going to be recapping the Conjuring movie from beginning to end. Along with that, I will be doing a recap on the real life events of the Conjuring, and then I will be talking about the paranormal events that happened behind the scenes of the Conjuring. And now I do want to preface that this isn't the first movie recap I've ever made of James Wan, because I have talked about his movie Malignant, but unlike Malignant, The Conjuring is actually a really good movie. Like, this movie does eat severely, so I really won't be slacking the movie off too much. Anyways, let's dive into the movie The Conjuring. The movie opens up with this lesbian couple and their prisoner straight boy talking about this fugly doll that moves around their home. And yes, the doll is named Annabelle. And they named the doll Annabelle because the spirit living inside of it is named Annabelle Higgins. We don't really know if it's a regular spirit or a demon, but regardless, they just let it move into the doll, which is also like, you didn't want to do a background check on your future roommate. But after moving into the doll, Annabelle realizes that she's actually lesbophobic and decides to vandalize the cute lesbian apartment. Oh, disrespectful little shit. What the hell? So they decide to throw her away. Okay, dumpster baby. I see that Always Sunny in Philadelphia reference. But little Annabelle rejects those dumpster baby allegations, so she teleports herself back into the lesbian apartment. But we got a real problem right here. So lesbian Liza Minnelli decides to call renowned ghost hunters Ed and Lorraine Warren to bless the house and see what is going on with this little Annabelle doll. And turns out this little Annabelle doll was never just a ghost. It was actually a demon. So Ed and Lorraine Warren decide to pick up the doll, bring it back home, and then bless the apartment, essentially ending the story of Annabelle. Cut to Ed and Lorraine Warren doing a college seminar on how to get no otherwise known as ghost hunting. All of y'all gonna be virgins for life. Now, nothing really happens here, so let's just move on to the Perron family, moving into their new home, and it's low-key giving plantation vibes, but that's never really addressed. But you know what else is not addressed? Joey King being in this movie. Yeah, that...
Are you joking?
I was about to say creature. I can't say creature because she certainly served on the Met Gala, so she's not a creature, she is an honorable young woman. But here we get our first ghost indicator, and that is the dog not wanting to enter the home. But like any normal family, they decide, hey, let's just keep the dog outside. In fact, let's chain him up outside in front of the home. I'm gonna call PETA. You're in the middle of nowhere, and who's to say that a Wendigo isn't gonna come up, pick your dog up, and run away with it? Like, are we being serious right now, guys? That's literally a good McDonald's meal for a nice Wendigo in the middle of the woods. Along with the whole dog situation, the youngest daughter, April, finds this weird little music box and trust and believe that music box is going to give her more trauma than an hour on Omegle. This girl, she may never see hope in humanity again. Moving on, we get introduced to the best game ever created, that is Hide and Clap, which is basically hide and seek mixed in with Marco Polo. It's a vibe. And you know who's the seeker? Joey King. So we watch Joey King walk around the home where she goes into the closet in the first floor. And then her sister decides to come up and push her into the wall, thus breaking the wall, thus revealing that there is a cellar that they never knew about. Oh, if my sister did that to me, she would be going down the cellar stairs. In fact, I would do that and then I would bring out the medieval torture devices and unleash hell on her. And once the cellar is revealed, the dad decides he's gonna go down under. But that ultimately reveals that there's nothing in the basement. Boring. Cut to the next day and we find out that all the clocks have stopped at 3:07. Sounds like the witching hour, guys. What's going on there? On top of that, the mom finds all these bruises all over her, and no, it's not from cannon carving with her husband. It's from something a little bit more sinister. And not long after that, we hear the screams of April, the youngest child, in the backyard, which the parents run out to and they notice, oh, PETA is coming after us. That dog is dead. And now we fast forward to nighttime and we see all the clocks are stopped at 3:07 and Joey King is having her feet played with and someone is farting in the bedroom. That might just be one of the weirdest sentences I've ever said in my life. Joey King's feet are being played with and someone is farting in the room. Why did I write that? And during the night, we get to see the dad wandering around the home where he gets to see the back door opening and closing like weirdly fast. It's a weird ghost vibe. It's definitely not the breeze. It's definitely something paranormal, but that gets interrupted by Cindy, one of the other daughters, sleepwalking around the home up into Andrea's bedroom. An NPC walks into the wardrobe, continuing back and forth, back and forth. What is going on? Cut to the next day and we see April talking to her new friend Rory, who's actually trapped inside of the mirror of the music box that she was given. So what we're seeing now is interdimensional communication between a minor and a 100-year-old ghost child. I'm about to call the cops. Soon after, we find out that the dad is actually leaving to go to Florida for a couple days because he has to go and do some weird work. And the mom is left with the gaslighting ghost of the house. Anyways, back to Joey King's feet fight, and we see her almost get pulled off the bed by some failed member of the Impractical Joker squad. But more importantly, we see that failed member decide to slam her door shut, locking her and her sister in the bedroom. We might actually have a ghost on our hands. And this ghostly encounter finishes with a statement, "I didn't want my family dead." Moving back to the mom embracing her suburban wife lifestyle by taking her benzos. But on a more serious note, we do find out that her bruises are getting much, much worse. Like really, really bad. And now this pill-popping mom is rudely interrupted by the ghost deciding to slam all of the picture frames from the second floor down to the first floor. And I'm just supposed to believe that none of those 5 daughters heard that. No one else woke up other than the mother, eventually leading her to 2 claps from the basement, with the basement door opening and the piano being played. Yo, this is too much. I'd literally run out the house and abandon my kids. Like, they can be possessed. I don't care. I'm running away. I'm running away. And if CPS tells me I've got to go and get my kids, I'm not, because those kids are possessed. They're not mine. They're the devil's. But regardless, this is a white lady in horror, so she goes and investigates. But surprisingly, the basement seems fairly normal, but just as she's about to leave the room, the door slams on her and she falls down the stairs, much like the tragic incident of Charlie XCX.
Hi British Vogue, I'm Charlie XCX and
I want to fall down the stairs.
So she decides to run. Well, no. She crawls up the stairs and then she eventually picks up a match, lights the match, and then 2 hands come out of the darkness and clap and blow out the flames. Now that jump scare right there, that is a good jump scare. Like, truly one of James Wan's best pieces of work. We then cut to Andrea waking up with her sister doing her NPC walk against the wardrobe, but when she guides her sister back to the bed, the knocking persists. So Andrea decides to unlock her inner Scooby-Doo, walks over to the wardrobe, opens the wardrobe, looks inside, there's nothing inside. So she looks on top of it. Oh, there's a J.K. Rowling lookalike that's getting ready to pounce on her. And that J.K. Rowling lookalike jumps on her. Oh. Luckily though, the father comes home from his weird business trip in the middle of the night and then gets the mom out of the basement and then gets Andrea out of her weird psychosis thing where she saw J.K. Rowling as a witch. Thank God. Thank God. Shifting back to the Warrens' Virgin 101 college seminar, we get to see a video recreation of an exorcism that actually happened in real life, according to the Warrens. Not sure if I believe the Warrens all too much, but it's cool. Also in the scene, we get to see the real Lorraine Warren swipe her paranormal face card. Something shifted when she appeared on my screen. I said, now that's Lorraine Warren. That's LW right there.
You're with the savage.
But more importantly, we find out that Carolyn Perrin has actually signed up for Virgin 101 and wants the Warrens to investigate her home. And through this investigation, the Warrens find out that the Perrin family is all sleeping in the living room in a bunch of sleeping bags, which I can't blame them because truly, if all this stuff happened to me, I think I would be in a psych ward. I think I would be in a padded cell. And they eventually go into the basement and Lorraine Warren picks up a wide array of screams, which I can only compare to the screams of Brazilians when they see Lady Gaga. Something sinister is going down. And not in Brazil. It's happening in Connecticut. Eventually, the Warrens decide to interview the Perrin family, and they find out that the parents have yet to move from this home because they're not financially stable to move, because all their money is locked up in the home. And Lorraine eventually gets her hands on the music box, and when she winds it up, we get to meet Cindy's imaginary friend, Rory. Yeah, the kid's real. I mean, he looks like a circus jester. I really don't know what his state of employment is, but he looks cool. And Lorraine continues this investigation by going into the backyard where it's revealed that someone hung themselves on the tree. Okay. Did we need to hit every stereotype of horror right there? Hung herself? Are we joking right now? Are we joking? Guys. And with all this information, the Warrens decide to diagnose the home with demons, and they prescribe it an exorcism. Yeah. Right. Shifting back to the Warren house, and the couple is listening back to the interview with the Perrin family, and we find out that the mom's voice in the interview was never recorded. What could that mean? Literally, what could that mean? Along with that, we find out that Lorraine is a little bit of a citizen detective, much like Misty Quigley from Yellow Jackets, and here we find out that the house was built in 1813 by a man named Judson Sherman, who was married to a woman named Bathsheba, who is also a descendant of Marytown Esther, who, by the way, was accused of witchcraft and hung at the Salem witch trials. Okay, so we're dealing with witches. Or, we're not even dealing with witches, maybe we're dealing with a woman scorned by the reputation of the Scarlet Letter of the Salem witch trials. Now back to Bathsheba, her husband actually caught her sacrificing her 7-day-old baby to Satan. Then she proceeds to curse anyone who tries to take her land. Then she finishes this insane performance by hanging herself on the tree in the backyard.
You're trying to sacrifice your baby.
So guess what her time of death was? 3:07. And it's looking as though the house is getting a bit cramped with the amount of spirits, ghouls, and humans. Also, if there's ghosts all over the home, why don't we hear the ghost of the dog? Now back to Lorraine, she also reveals that a woman and her son did die inside the home. That woman being the mother of Rory Walker, and the son being Rory, the imaginary friend. Along with that, we do find out that a neighbor's maid did end up killing themselves. And cut to the next day, and we see Ed, Lorraine, their assistant, and a cop, for some reason, show up to the Perrin family home to investigate. And while at the house, Lorraine decides to enter her tradwife era by doing some laundry, but while doing the laundry, one of the sheets flies off, hits something, and then shows an entity standing there right next to her. Then it flies away, hits the window of the upstairs room where the mom sleeps, and then it moves away and it reveals Bathsheba. But now we do have to think about the fact that Carolyn does have Bathsheba within her bedroom right now. And they're not getting freaky because neither of them are giving lesbian. They're giving evil straight woman. So what the happened right there? And then we cut to the mom being woken up by Bathsheba vomiting inside of her mouth. I love freaks so much. Normally I'm there with you. But this one, I mean, it made me feel like I'm a Mormon, because vomiting in your weird situationship's mouth that you're also trying to possess
You probably smell like period from last month.
It's not hot. And eventually Lorraine makes her way up to the mom's bedroom, but the mom just acts as though everything is great. Maybe I don't even need antidepressants. As if she didn't just have a barrel of shit lodged down her throat. Oh yeah. No, life is good. Life is good when I'm having poop funneled down my gullet.
You know.
Moving on, we get to see the cop embrace being a damsel in distress when he hears a voice coming from the porch, and then he gets jump scared by the maid. And normally I would feel kind of bad for the main characters, but he's a cop, so you probably deserve it. After this, we see Cindy sleepwalk up into Andrea's bedroom with the door slamming behind her. And then once they get the door open, Cindy's gone. Cindy actually disappeared. So they decide to pull out the UV light, look for her footsteps, those go into the wardrobe, and then they open up the wardrobe, and that is revealed to be its own weird makeshift Narnia. So they go further into it, find a hole, and then they see Cindy sleeping inside the walls. We do figure out that this is where Rory hides when he's too afraid of Bathsheba. So he has all of his little trinkets up on like a little shelf. But then she finds a noose that Bathsheba used to, and then she falls right through the floorboards into the basement of the home. Oh my god. How'd she not die? And once inside the basement, she activates the little music box and she sees Rory and his mom. But this is all interrupted by Bathsheba wanting to show off her little freaky toes and floating after Lorraine as she runs away up the stairs back into the main room of the home. And once Lorraine makes her way back up into the living room, all the crosses in the house decide to fall over, and then the eldest daughter Andrea's hair gets pulled all across the floor. Like this girl is being dragged across the floor. Like that wig is about to fly off of her head. And then they decide to give her a shag mullet, thus cutting off the piece of the hair that's being pulled by the ghost. Wigs.
Who the did your hair? What? No, I'm on the phone.
And after this insane progression of events, Lorraine has a weird psychic vision where she's like, my daughter's gonna die. So she decides to call her daughter, and turns out everything's completely fine. So you might be thinking, what was the point of saying that? Well, it was to make you aware that she has a daughter, and you should be thinking about that daughter. You really should, because she's gonna go down with her. And due to this insane night, the parents decide to move into a motel for the night, and the Warrens decide to consult with a priest about a possible exorcism on the house. But before we get too excited about the possible exorcism, the priest is like, hey, Diva, not to ruin your vibe, but like, they're not baptized, and they're not religious, and we're kind of exclusive here. So it's kind of complicated. I don't know if we can give them an exorcism.
Your life is a movie, and the star of the movie is Jesus Christ.
And cut to the Warren house without Mommy Warren or Daddy Warren, only Granny Warren and Little Warren. And Little Warren gets woken up out of bed and dragged into the living room, where she then encounters Bathsheba in a rocking chair holding baby Annabelle. Oh, we're killing kids now. But also, how did Annabelle, the doll, get out of her little enclosure? And how did Bathsheba walk all the way from the Conjuring home to the Warren home? Isn't she supposed to be locked to The residence? Why can she leave? I thought she was on house arrest. Spiritual house arrest at that. Also, genuinely, how did Granny Warren not wake up at all the entire night while little Warren is screaming bloody murder and being dragged into the living room? What are you doing, Granny? Diva, maybe you don't need to be a grandmother. Maybe you need to be in the retirement home. And finally, the parents make it home just in time to save their daughter after a rocking chair gets thrown directly at her. So, at least the baby's alive. But here is my $1 million question. Why do they own a museum full of actually possessed objects and expect that their daughter will be safe home alone in the middle of the night when those things could easily break through those tiny little locks in that door? Genuinely, y'all must be stupid, or maybe you don't even believe in any of it, because how can you feel safe leaving your daughter as collateral for these spirits to just possess at any point? And now cut back to the motel, and rumor has it Mother Perrin has now taken Joey King and the Shirley Temple youngest daughter lookalike back to the Conjuring home. I'm gonna let you sit with that. And apparently she also smelled like doing it. So, I mean, either that's unhygienic or she's possessed by a demon.
That energy was atrocious.
How'd y'all let that happen? It's 5 daughters against 1 mother, and by the way, that mother is not tall at all. So clearly it could have been a 5v1, and y'all could have won. But y'all just let her take the 2 kids? And because of this, Ed and Lorraine Warren decide to abandon their already traumatized daughter to go and save the Conjuring family, which is like, genuinely, your daughter was almost possessed or probably murdered by the Annabelle doll and Bathsheba. But no, it's right. Just like leave her in the home while you're going over to fight this other demon. Like, I'm sorry, I might be selfish as like, truly, there's no need for you to leave your daughter like that. At least drop her off at a cathedral. And once the Warrens are at the home, they try and take Carolyn out of the house. But once they start taking her out of the home, she starts burning alive. Like the demon will kill her if she leaves the premises. But along with that, she gets dragged from the front door all the way down the basement. And once they're down in the basement, they decide to tie her up to a chair and they decide to do the exorcism themselves, even though no one's experienced enough to do it. But you know what? Sometimes we all have to lie on our LinkedIn resumes, and sometimes we get the job. And sometimes that job is being an exorcist. And while the exorcism is happening, a flock of crows fly into the house. Like every which way there's a crow flying into the home. But along with that, the demon decides to float Carolyn up in the chair, turn her upside down, make her sit on the ceiling, and then slams her down into the floor, breaking the chair, breaking her free. And while this is all happening, the Warrens' assistant eventually finds the youngest daughter hidden underneath the floorboards of the house. And this alarms Bathsheba so much that she decides to lock in because she was hiding this kid to eventually sacrifice the baby, much like she sacrificed her first child. Another child is getting murdered. What are we doing? Why are we always trying to murder a kid? Why can't we murder an elderly person? They already have it all. And so Bathsheba locks in, snatches up April, and the only thing that stops her from killing this kid is Lorraine Warren being like, hey, Diva, let me hold your hand when I tell you this. Life is beautiful. And that somehow makes Bathsheba leave the body of Carolyn. Okay. But anyways, this makes Carolyn vomit up a bunch of blood like Bathsheba did. And that's the end of the exorcism. Word. And cut to the next day, and the mom is recovering from the absolute bender of having an exorcism put on herself. Life sucks because of that. And then we get to see Ed putting that spooky little music box back inside of his museum. And the movie ends. Very happy ending for a horror movie like this. Like, unsettlingly happy. And now that we finished talking about the movie, let's talk about what happened with the real life Perrin family, because y'all, I have some shit to say about this family. I think they were lying. I low-key think they were lying, or they were maybe making it a little bit more dramatic than it really was, because this doesn't sound real. This sounds like a fake story to possibly sell a harm. Now, the events of The Conjuring occurred in a rural farmhouse in Burrillville, Rhode Island, in a nearly 300-year-old home, and obviously they used a different house for filming in, but the thing is, the house that they used for filming in was low-key giving plantation vibes, when the original home was like a rustic Salem kind of home, which I really don't know why they changed the aesthetics of it, because the implications of a plantation home are a little bit more severe than a rustic Salem home. Anyways, the real life Perrin story began in January 1971 when Roger and Carolyn Perrin, along with their 5 daughters, Andrea, April, Christine, Cindy, and Nancy, moved into their new home. And now the man who gave them the keys did tell them to keep the lights on at night, which is like, all right, you're a perv, you're literally wanting them to keep the lights on so you can see them getting dressed and undressed at night. You little freak.
This is awesome because you can really look into people's bedrooms and see kind of like how they lay out their furniture.
That was my dream when I was a child, to be a pervert.
What?
But that was everybody though, come on.
I know exactly what you're up to. I've done this before. I've played these games before. I've been the pervert. You won't perv on me. But after moving in, Carolyn would notice things frequently going missing, scraping sounds against the kettle, and small piles of dirt forming in the middle of the kitchen, which honestly, if this was happening to me, I think I would go livid because the way that these ghosts would be gaslighting me into believing that someone was creating mud pies in the middle of my kitchen, the exorcism would have happened right there. I would have brought a super soaker, filled it up with holy water, and shot every single ghost down. I will never be disrespected by some roommate that doesn't pay any rent. And now the daughter, Cindy Perrin, would go on to say that she would hear a menacing voice say there's 7 dead soldiers in her walls. Okay, I think she was just having a Lottie Matthews summer.
Were you outside last night eating dirt? Actual no.
If my daughter said that, I'd be like, oh, you know what? You're actually going to go to boarding school. You're creeping me out. You're being weird, and I'm not going to raise a weird kid. Because, no. Oh, also Cindy was the one who allegedly befriended a ghost inside the house, and that was named Manny, aka the Rory in the Conjuring movie. But even with all this creepy evidence, just like in the Conjuring movie, they could not move because all their money was tied up inside of the home. Even if I don't even believe in the paranormal side of this is still a sad story. Like, it's literally a family who does not have the finances to move out of a home that they clearly do not want to live in. And as time went on, the paranormal events kept on getting worse and worse and worse, like much, much worse. And now Bathsheba would often terrorize Carolyn by supposedly stabbing her with an invisible needle. Now, I'm sorry, but genuinely that is the most fake fucking murder weapon I've ever heard in my life. Like, I get it, we didn't have iPhones back then or ChatGPT, so they couldn't make a lie for you, but genuinely, imagination is free. Invisible needle, my the only needle I'm seeing is you needle getting a life. Ooh, that was bad. However, while Bathsheba was terrorizing Carolyn, she was also trying to get in the pants of Roger Perrin. Yes, something about this young man made her really want to squirt her ectoplasm everywhere. What do you mean a ghost is terrorizing you because it wants to fuck your husband?
I wouldn't want to be in her shoes after this.
The narrative that they're trying to push on me is that this ghost is trying to fuck a man. This seems like an agenda being pushed on me. And now let's talk about Bathsheba's origins. Because she was very much a real person. Bathsheba Thayer was born in 1812 in Rhode Island and went on to marry Judson Sherman, and later had a child with him named Herbert in 1849. She was also rumored to have had 3 other children, which died before the age of 7, but I don't really know if I buy into this because this theory hasn't really been substantiated by any government evidence at all, so it's kind of just giving fake news. Like, the misinformation final boss is literally the Reddit pages that I was having to scroll through to find any evidence of the real life Conjuring story. Because what you're saying that they had 3 other children that died before the age of 7 but were never recorded by the governments of the New England area, when the New England people were very, very adamant about keeping records on everything because they were Puritans. Like, the Puritans, if they were going to do anything, they were going to journal. They're like depressed teenagers nowadays. And moving on from this tinfoil hat theory, Bathsheba was also rumored to have been a witch by the people in the town. And this rumor was only solidified when it was found out that she actually had a baby that died underneath her own care. And that baby died by having a sewing needle lodged into its brain.
Oh my goodness.
But with no solid proof of her doings, she was not convicted of the murder and lived her life peacefully until dying of natural causes on May 25th, 1885. So I guess it's kind of nice to know that she didn't have that overly insane, overly dramatic fan fiction of a death that happened in the movie. She didn't profess her love for Satan, she didn't kill her baby, she didn't kill herself, she just died. Now thinking back at that, why the did they slander her name so bad in the movie? They literally made her sound like an absolute hellish neighbor, like neighbor from hell. This woman sounded evil as and now in real life, she just died of natural causes. She didn't hang anyone. She didn't, well, she might have killed a baby, but she didn't do anything. Well, that may, killing a baby's really bad. Also, apparently Bathsheba didn't even live on the property of the home. She lived on a farm close by the property. So what is going on right there? Genuinely, what is going on right there? Because it looks as though you found a local woman who had a terrible backstory, and we're like, all right, we want to have some drama in our story. So let's pick up this Bathsheba story and say, oh, she is terrorizing me and she's an evil woman and she's using that same needle that she killed that baby with on me. You know what? I love fan fiction too, and I love lying. But parents, this might just be evil. It was also rumored that this absolute character assassination of Bathsheba was done by the Warrens because they claimed that Bathsheba sacrificed her child to Satan before taking her own life, much like in the movie. They really just hated seeing a woman in the 1800s trying to live her life normally after killing a baby. And now back to the haunting of the Perron family, we do figure out that they weren't actually the ones who directly contacted the Warrens. Instead, it was some family friend who contacted the Warrens while they were out on a case in Connecticut. So that's how the Warren situation began. And along with that, apparently the Warrens weren't even that good at their job because they continuously went to the Perron family over the course of 10 years and still never got the demons out of their home. What? I thought it was over the course of a couple weeks, like in the Conjuring movie. No, genuinely 10 years. 10 years of trying to exorcise this demon out of your home. Now, I hope that the parents weren't paying a yearly subscription for this ghost fighting insurance, because over the course of 10 years, you never got the demons out of the home. Not gonna lie, it's sounding a little bit like a scam. Along with that, the Warrens did a seance with a priest and a medium on the Perron home, but instead of it helping, it led to Carolyn becoming possessed, leading to her speaking in tongue and levitating. If that's truly what happened, girl, I just feel bad. And now we only know about this incident because the eldest daughter, Andrea, saw it with her own 2 eyes. And luckily, the Warrens were able to get the mom out of this weird brain rot spiritual psychosis after several hours of trying. But genuinely, it seems as though this was avoidable. And on top of that, it looks like the Warrens kind of pushed her into it. Like, you put in all these ideas of possession and demons being located within her own home, so she's going to constantly be paranoid about that happening, and maybe you're going to push her over the edge, and maybe she's going to feel as though she's being possessed and actually freak out. It kind of just seems as though this was a huge mental break for her. And I mean, she's got 5 kids, very financially unstable, and she's surrounded by people who are telling her that her home is possessed by demons. That is not a good life. However, unlike in the movie, this exorcism only led to more and more paranormal events. Like, the ghosts supposedly did not go away. In fact, they got much, much worse. So the Perron family finally decided to hike up their bootstraps and finally fire the Warrens. Finally. And once the Warrens were left to collect their unemployment checks, the Perron family eventually moved out of Rhode Island and moved to Georgia in 1980. And now you may think that the real life story of the Conjuring home is done, but no, it's not. After they moved out, a couple of the next owners of the home did go on to publicize their paranormal findings in the home. Some of them were kind of interesting. And now the next resident of the home was Norma Sutcliffe. And Norma Sutcliffe fully believed that the home was ghost-free. Along with that, she was living in the home when the Conjuring movie was released, which led to her suing the production for creating such fanfare around her home, which ended up attracting fans to her house like pervy white men to the Philippines. Like, genuinely, it was a circus of people that came to her home.
I know it's hard to take out here.
Eventually in 2019, Sutcliffe put the house up for sale just to escape these basement-dwelling ghost-hunting freaks, and it was eventually purchased by Corey and Jennifer Heinzen, who went on to state that this home was extremely paranormally active. She sold it to the wrong people. She sold it to these tinfoil-wearing freaks. Like, genuinely, could she not have sold it to just, like, some regular people? Even if there were ghosts, would the ghosts want to be surrounded by a bunch of, like, weird basement-dwelling ghost hunters? Like, due to their ghostly beliefs, they decided to sleep in the smaller wing of the home for 4 months because they were convinced that if they slept in the big wing of the home, they would disrupt the spirits a little bit too much. Genuinely, after hearing that story, I was like, all right, these people are just super fans of the Conjuring story. And along with it, they did claim to see a shadow figure once they opened up the door to the bigger part of the home, which is a little bit concerning because I'm like, maybe you guys need to get your eyes checked, or maybe you should have recorded that with a camera, because if you're such big fans of the lore of this home, shouldn't you be a little bit more suspicious and set up security cameras everywhere so you could possibly see these ghosts on camera? Where is the picture proof? Because it sounds like you're lying. And now that we've finished talking about the real life lore of the Conjuring movie, let's talk about what happened on the set of the Conjuring, because the production behind the Conjuring did have some mysterious, possibly paranormal activities happening on it. And now let's dive into the production history behind the Conjuring movie. Yes. And to start off with an absolute bomb of lore, the hotel used to house the cast and crew during the shooting of the Conjuring movie did end up catching fire. Yeah. However, the hotel didn't end up burning all the way down because the fire was put out, so I guess that's kind of good, but it's certainly a little bit strange that the hotel did catch fire while shooting. Because if you watch my last video on the Exorcist movie, you would know that that production also had its set completely burned down. So it's seeming as though the set burning down / living space burning down is a little bit of a motif And now prior to the shooting of the movie, Lorraine Warren decided to show the director and some of the writers some private little X-rated videos. And I know she doesn't look like the type of woman to be a little bit of a freak, but trust and believe she was a freak. Because in these videos, we got to see a farm boy speaking fluent Latin backwards. It was freaky, but I mean, it was probably fake though. Like, there's probably a way to fake that. And along with that X-rated farmer video, Lorraine also showed them videos of a person crying blood, a person having a cross form on their skin, just all around freaky stuff. But these videos were eventually implemented into the real-life Conjuring movie in that weird college seminar that Lorraine was having. The most notable of which being when Vera Farmiga accepted the role in the movie, she closed the laptop and saw that there are 3 digital scratch marks across the screen, which is a little bit confusing because I'm like, well, when did ghosts become tech geniuses? When did they join the geek bar at the Best Buy? Like, what is going on there? Are they going to start hacking my computer? Are they going to find my search history?
You can be mad at me all you want, but you can't be on mom's phone Googling anime lesbians and not know how to delete your search history and act like that's my fault.
But a couple months after, the day after they wrapped filming in fact, Vera did see those 3 claw marks appear as bruises across her leg. I don't know why, but something about Vera Farmiga saying this to me feels a little bit more realistic than the other people. Something about her is spiritual. Something about her is almost paranormal. And now with this production being off to a really weird start for Vera, she fully believed that she could not bring the script home with her or read it at night because, well, it gave her the heebie-jeebies. And along with that, she continuously woke up between the hours of 3 to 4 in the morning, which does sound spooky because that is the witching hour. But at the same time, it's like, girl, I've worked in production too. I have had to wake up at 3 to 4 in the morning. So your biological clock was probably just syncing with your schedule. Moving on to the child actress of Joey King, she also experienced some weird paranormal experiences while shooting the movie. In fact, she woke up with bruises all over her body almost every day of shooting, which is a little bit weird because she wasn't doing any stunts and she didn't have any previous medical conditions that would make her have bruises like this. Suspicious. Not saying that she was like trying to hurt her body, but it's definitely a bit strange. Like, what the f is going on set? Was she like in an underground fight club, or were the ghosts just not happy with Miss JK? Like, did they see the dark future that was ahead of her in Hollywood, aka the Kissing Booth series? And shifting away from the cast and crew of the movie, the Perrin family did end up making some frequent trips to the set. And while they were making some of their frequent trips to the set, little old Cindy saw the witch with the prosthetics on in the movie, and she recoiled in fear when she saw that because she said, that looks exactly like the witch that I saw when I was a kid. Which, I'm not gonna lie, that doesn't sound like you're telling the truth, girl, because rumor has it they modeled the witch in that movie after a stereotypical witch from the Salem witch trials. So which one is it? Did you just imagine a witch from a TV show, or was this witch just some regular old granny that you internalized in your brain and was convinced that you saw while having sleep paralysis? Also, on one of these visits to set, one of the OG Perrin girls did end up telling the lead writer Chet Hayes that something bad was going to happen that day. And then later that day, they get a call that Carolyn Perrin, the mother of the house, did fall down in the bathroom during a shower. So that could have been just a coincidence, or it could have been a ghost, or it could have been someone pushing her over and then making it seem as though there is a ghost in the home, which is bad. And I'm not endorsing elder abuse, but like, truth be told, I don't really know who to believe in. Like, she did fall over in the shower, but like, I hear that happens all the time with old people. Like, they kind of just like trip, fall, and slip and break a hip. Finally, let's move on to the writer Cary Hayes and his possible haunting that occurred while working on this movie. While working on The Conjuring, he claimed that he was being haunted because he was finding water puddles around the home, which is like, girl, I think someone's just pissing on the floor. Like, I don't know about that one. But his wife insisted against the piss theory because she was like, hey girl, like, I don't see my kids pissing on the floor. I'm not pissing on the floor. I hope you're not pissing on the floor. So let's call in Miss Lorraine Warren. So they call in Lorraine Warren and she's like, hey guys, it's actually a water spirit, which is like, okay, when did you become the Avatar, Lorraine? And she explains further that the reason why there's water appearing is because some spirits feed off of adolescent anger, so therefore you should be a better father to your kids and stop the fights sooner. Which is certainly an interesting take. And once Cary Hayes started being a more involved father, the water disappeared. Which, not to doubt you, but what if the water disappeared because you stopped having fights with your son, so therefore he stopped pissing on the floor? Now that is a theory. Anyways, that is all I have to say about The Conjuring. Thank you so much for watching this video. It is probably the most research I've ever had to do for a YouTube video because I had to look into not only the movie, I had to look into the history behind the movie, and then I also had to talk about the production history behind the movie. So thank you so much for watching. Have a good day. See you in hopefully 2 weeks. And if you have any recommendations for what I should do next as a video, please drop it in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.